It was the biggest test NJ Transit has ever faced, moving hundreds of thousands of soccer fans to and from 8 World Cup matches at MetLife Stadium. It was a challenge that took years of planning to execute. And while the tournament's final price tag is still being calculated, it comes at a pivotal moment for the agency. NJ Transit just adopted a $3.5 billion budget. I sat down with the NJ Transit president and CEO, Chris Kaluri, to break it all down. Chris, great to see you. On the heels of the final match of the World Cup in East Rutherford on Sunday, you declared that the curse of the 2014 Super Bowl is over. And it got me thinking, is that the reason why we've had all these transit troubles all these years? Was that actually a curse?
Well, I could tell you as it relates to the events, the FIFA game was the biggest we've ever hosted, and we were able to over 8 games successfully implement our transportation plan and move a record number of people. So the cloud I was talking about dealt specifically with making sure that New Jersey Transit handles large-scale events, and I think we proved that without a doubt.
How would you rate the performance of NJ Transit? I mean, both from moving the fans in and out to rerouting regular commuters, would you say you hit the marks you wanted?
Well, look, I mean, I think my view is less important, but the fans and the people who took the system, their views are more important to me because they're the ones who ultimately decide whether we did a good job. And I think uniformly, if you look at the experience of the people who took the system to get to the games, it was an extraordinarily positive feedback we've gotten. At the same time, look, I also know that the bread and butter of this agency are the commuters. And what I can tell them is that for a couple of years, we've had a dual mission of dealing with FIFA, as we were also trying to provide a service to the commuters. And now that that is over, we can singularly focus on the commuters, which is what we try to do.
The big question for a lot of people is, what did it cost? And I know you don't have those numbers yet. I did see that you said it would take a couple weeks. We do know, though, that you planned for about 40,000 riders per match and only hit about somewhere a little more than half of that. We've seen some rough calculations that maybe there was a $13 million shortfall there. Is that something that you have even a rough estimate for yet? And when will you have real numbers?
Yeah, look, I think words matter. Planned for is not what I've ever said. I said we have a capacity for 40,000 people. And we, as I said, we've moved a record number of people at 370,000 people to and from the games. What I have said to anybody who was asked is our CFO has started the process of reconciling the actual budget to the proposed budget we announced in April. That work will take 3 weeks or so. At the end of it, whatever the number is, and if there's a delta, I'll be the first person to share that without violating the 3 principles I've always laid out. Number 1 is there will not be a commuter surcharge. Number 2, I will not go back to the legislature and ask for more money. And number 3, there will not be service cuts. The governor has a record budget increase. We will live within that number.
Yeah, let's talk about that record budget increase. NJ Transit just approved its fiscal year budget, an 11% increase in spending for this fiscal year. It's a total of $3.5 billion. I'm telling you what you already know. Let me ask you this. We've talked for years about this pending $1 billion shortfall that the agency was facing. How does this budget reconcile that?
Yeah, look, the corporate transit fees was a huge part of the solution. I know it expires in a couple of years, but I think the fact that we get almost $850 million or roughly in that order is a big part of making sure that we don't have a budget shortfall. But there's something more fundamental in what the governor has tried to do with this budget. The governor's objective is to make sure we ultimately get this agency to provide the kind of reliable service that the customers expect. The only way you can do that is by funding both the operations as well as the capital needs of the organization. This governor, more than anybody else, has literally said we will make the improvements that we've promised, whether it is cleaning the stations, cleaning the buses and trains, or buying new buses and rail cars. We are trying to do all of it with the singular goal of making sure we improve reliability on the system.
The governor, there's a $302 million subsidy, direct subsidy in state aid. That's 20 million more than what the governor even had proposed. And so where you ended up was higher than perhaps even where this governor started. Has she indicated whether that's a one-off? I'm going to ask you a two-part question. So let's start with that. Has she indicated whether this will be consistent? Are we there yet to even know what next year could look like? How do you plan from a financial spending point of view?
Yeah, a bit of a correction that there's not an extra $20 million. What essentially happened during the budget process is they swapped out one funding for another. That's all that happened. So our 11% increase still stands, which is what the governor promised when she gave the budget address. It's just that during the budget process, they swapped out one funding for another. Secondly, and I think the point that you're raising is, what is the predictability of funding look like in the out years? Which is exactly what the governor has talked about. If we can make sure that New Jersey Transit never repeats its history again, which is for 35 out of the 47 years we've been in existence, we have not had a stable funding source. What the governor is trying to do is to make sure we correct the course and make sure we meet our obligations so we can provide the reliable service that customers have asked for. That's all the governor is trying to do, and that's all I'm trying to do.
This comes as residents, riders saw a 3% fare increase. Yet again, this is year over year. Do you see that fare increase as somewhat permanent, something that riders can expect for years to come? Do you see any end date to that increase?
Yeah, look, I think let me sort of broadly talk about why that is important. Predictable funding is the only way you can make sure you build a reliable system, especially when the rate of return on a system like this is 34 cents. That literally means we need a subsidy every morning for every dollar that we spend, because that's the nature of a mass transit system. That is just not New Jersey Transit. That's how every mass transit system around the world works, except for maybe the one in Hong Kong. What we're trying to also say is to put our real estate that we own into play so we can essentially try to lower the cost of running the system and not put it all on the commuters, and also try to spread that a little bit around.
Yeah, you took the words out of my mouth. You've talked a lot about transit-oriented development. Do you have any plans there in the works, anything that you can share that would be a revenue driver for the agency?
Yeah, look, just in the last several weeks, we put out almost 11 properties of interest to the market, and the demand and the excitement is palpable. What I'll say about that is I don't want this to be one-off transactions. Where it makes sense to sell, we will sell. But what makes sense to me is to make sure New Jersey Transit is in these property development deals for a very long period of time so we get money every single year. Metro Park is a good example of that. Even if it is $100,000 a year from each property, and if you add up 50, 60 properties, now you're talking about substantial amounts of money. That's how I think we make sure we defray the costs of running the business and not put it all on the commuters.
All right, we've got to leave it there, but good stuff. Thank you. Chris Calori, President and CEO of NJ Transit and Executive Director of the New Jersey Turnpike Authority. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.